Today we're talking all about these long irons, mid irons and short irons. Do we actually approach these the same? And if not, what do we need to do different to hit better iron shots? Let's get stuck into this lesson and find out right now. Okay, so one of the questions that I get asked during my lessons is, do I hit all my irons the same? Now, as we've got here for this video, I've got a 5 iron, I've got a 7 iron, and I've got a 9 iron. As we all know, or hopefully we know, lofts have got a lot stronger over the last sort of 5 to 10 years. So what was my 3 iron or 4 iron is pretty much now my 5 iron, and what used to be maybe my 8 iron is now my 9 iron. They've just gone up about 4 degrees in loft, so your 5 iron might be going the same distance as your mate's 4 iron, but his irons might be a little bit older, and that's probably the reason why. But as we know, that all lofts are different on each golf club. So like I said, I've got my 5 iron, I've got my 7 iron, and I've got my 9 iron. As we look at those from close up there, we can see there's quite a bit of difference in each club there. Quite a significant amount of loft as we go from the 5 iron to the 9 iron. The 5 iron almost looks straight, as where the 9 iron looks like it's pointing a little bit more up towards the sky. Now, obviously they're to do different jobs. Your 9 iron's not meant to go as far as your 5 iron. It's meant to go a little bit higher in its initial launch, and then it's meant to drop a little bit softer because it's coming in a little bit more vertically. The 5 iron's meant for achieving greater distances. So with that being known, what we've got to do is also look at the, like I say, the job and what we want them to do as well, and how that's going to affect what we actually do in our golf swing. Because with a short iron, let's say, if we classed our short irons as maybe a pitching wedge, a 9 iron, and maybe into an 8 iron, but that sort of falls more into a mid iron, which would be a 8 iron, a 7 iron, and a 6 iron. Then our long irons as the 5 iron, the 3 iron, the 4 iron. They're also going to be doing different jobs. My short irons, I want to get them close. I want to try and get them close to the pin as possible because I've only got a short distance. My mid irons, I'm looking to hit the green, maybe not as close with my short irons, but I'm looking to actually hit the green. A bit more distance, maybe a slight lack of control, less than the short irons. When I get into my long irons though, I'm maybe not looking to hit the green with each one. I'm looking to generate more distance, get it out there and see that I can get maybe up around the green, and if I get on the green, it's a bonus. So do I need to change my ball position? Do I need to change my stance? Do I need to change my swing to achieve those 2 or 3 different things? Let's take a look at where the ball positions should be for each one to start off with. Okay, so the ball position, and this is probably the most common question that I get asked. Where should it be, and is it all the same for each iron that I've got in my bag? And the answer is no. We don't want it in the same, because as we saw there and as we just discussed, each club has got a different loft on it. So if I put the ball in the same position and maintain the same stance, as I swing down and I get my attack angle, let's say if I had the ball in the middle of the body, if I've got a lofted club, there's not going to be an issue in the ball actually lifting up and getting airborne. If I've got a long iron where there's no loft and I'm still coming down, I'm taking more loft off it and I'm not going to get the launch I need, thus I'm not going to get the flight I need. So we need to change the ball positions. Let's start with a short iron, so I'm a 9 iron for me, and see where that would be as we go through. So probably the most misconception would be that every iron we need to play is always from the center of the body. Now with a short iron, that's spot on. Like I said, short irons, loads of loft on them, so they're gonna get airborne. When I see that the ball would be in the middle of my body here, which is where that yellow cane is, that's where the club is going to bottom out. So as this club bottoms out and I've got loads of loft on it, there's no issue in getting it airborne. If I were to have, like I say, my 5 iron, I did that, I'm still coming down, I'm going to take a little bit of loft off it, flat flight, not what we want. So when I've got, let's call our short irons, our pitching wedges and our 9 irons, as I play that one, what I want to see is that the ball now is placed in the center of my body. As I address it, I find the appropriate distance from the golf ball, so I wouldn't stand the same distance as I would do from a 5 iron because the shaft is shorter. So I take my appropriate distance for my 9 iron here, just move those out. And then that ball is now placed in the center of my body, and as I make a golf swing, I would hit, get ball then turf, it's lifted and I've got what I want. It's also then going to allow me, when I'm coming down on it, I'll be coming down just the right amount and I won't be slicing across it too much or too much from out to in because I've got it too far back or front to then negate what I would do in terms of control and trying to get that shot nice and close. So let's clip this one off here. So ball's now, if anything, it's literally a 1/4 of an inch in front of centre, but aim to play them out of the centre. Good setup from there. Out it goes, nice and straight. And we see nice height on it and straight down the line there. Beautiful as well, nice little divot after my golf ball. So for my short irons, find the appropriate distance. Good way of doing that is always trying to see that the distance between the butt of the golf club as you take your address. We want to see that the toe of the club is just sat up ever so slightly. Imagine sliding a 50p coin underneath your toe, and then as you've taken your address, just drop the club onto your lead leg in your posture, and it should sit no more than 2 inches to 1 inch above that kneecap, that lead kneecap, and then you're in the right position. If you're too far away, it's going to fall down onto your shin. If you're too close, it'd be up on your thigh. So that's the sweet spot, round about 1 inch to 2 inches above that lead knee, and there you get the right distance and the right posture for you. So then, like I say, if I were to then move up into my mid iron, if I grab my 7-iron here, if I were to now put that ball in the middle of my stance and then place my hands forwards the same amount that I had for my 9-iron, my short iron, I can see that this club looks quite de-lofted to me. So as I get my, what we would call static loft, which means when we're still, it's here. If I press it too much because I've got the ball too far back in my stance, i.e. too much in the middle, it goes too low, so I'm not going to get that desired launch. So for our mid irons, we want to see that as we're now taking our setup, if I have my middle of the body on the cane, I'm literally going to move 1/2 inch to 1 inch away from the target. So now the middle of my body is just behind the yellow cane here. If we have a line coming up off the yellow cane, you will see that the zipper on my jacket is actually just falling behind that. Again, that's because as I go into my 8, my 7 and my 6, there's not as much loft. There's still adequate loft, but I don't want to have it too far back in my stance to knock down that flight too much. I want to see that I am getting it up in the air. So again, find that appropriate distance. Make sure we've just made that slight adjustment. And what we would notice as well, as we're going through the swings, one of the things that's going to change as well, I get a slight wider stance because I'm going to try and increase my swing speed, maybe 5 miles an hour by each one, or 2 to 5 miles an hour, let's call it. So from, let's say, 90 miles an hour with my 5-iron, I'd be down at 85 with my 7, and I'd be at 80 with my 9-iron. It'd be somewhere in that category, because as we get less loft on the golf ball, on the golf club, we need more speed to help launch it and keep it in the air. So again, middle of the body on the cane, step that inch backwards, slightly wider stance, good posture, good distance from it, and a slightly faster swing speed now. And there, going straight down the line, my tiny little fade has got the launch I need, and that is how we get our mid-iron. So we're just moving it ever so slightly. We've moved ever so slightly back because the clubs are getting longer. A slightly wider stance to help increase my speed, and that's how we then get into the mid-iron. Let's take a look at this long iron and find out how we hit that one. Okay, so our long irons, and you're probably getting the idea now. As we're going up the irons, we're just moving the ball ever so slightly forwards towards that lead side each time. And what that does also, as I'm here, you might not be able to see this little divot that I've created, but it was more that it was created with the short iron, so my 9-iron for me, because when that ball's more in the middle of my stance and I shift forwards, I'm hitting down a little bit more on it. as I'm moving up towards my lead side here, I'm still endeavouring to take ball then divot, but because I'm moving up to that lead foot, I'm only taking a little slither of grass. So when you're in your long irons, your 5 iron, your 4 iron, your 3 iron if you still got one, it's going to feel that we're sweeping it. It almost might feel like I'm just cutting the grass a little bit instead of trying to take a big wedge out of the turf. So again, now I'm going to find that appropriate distance from the golf ball. I'm then going to put my middle of the body onto the line here in the yellow cane, and this time it would be a full inch, maybe an inch and a half. And if you're someone who struggles to launch it as well, don't be scared to experiment with moving it forwards. It doesn't have to be textbook. You might need to play it a little bit more towards your lead foot to help you launch it. You might want to play it a little bit more back because you launch it really high. So as you're doing these things, just make sure you have a little play around and find out what works for your golf swing. So the long iron, like I say, middle of the body's on the line. For me, I go about an inch and a half because I need to help launch it ever so slightly. So now we see the zipper behind. I take a little bit of a wider stance again because I'm going to try and get that faster swing speed. And then from there, I know now all I need to do is just get this little sweep in motion. I'm still going to hit down on it. I have my hands just pressed in front of that cane again. And from there, nicely clipped away, down the line again, and from there I'm able to keep control of all my irons, launch them at the appropriate height, get the desired distance, all by making those subtle changes. So the ball position is going to move up towards our lead foot. I'm going to feel that I'm getting the appropriate distance from the golf ball. I get a little bit wider to increase my speed, and if I can do that, I'm going to see that I start to hit my irons a lot better. So go through that there, use that as a little bit of a guide to hit your short, mid and long irons. Hopefully it's going to help you and you'll see much better golf shots. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this lesson this week. If you have and you do want to get better at golf, hit that subscribe button down there, subscribe button for me down there, and I'll see you in your next lesson.